I didn't hear the doctor's words at first. All I remember is the cold sting of the hospital tile against my cheek and my father's voice, cutting through the room like he was throwing out a piece of furniture. "She's not our responsibility anymore. She has somewhere else to go, just discharge her." That was the sentence that split my life in half. My name is Solara Merin, and I was 23 years old the day my father decided I was no longer useful enough to keep. I had collapsed at work, my body finally giving out after years of double shifts, sleepless nights, and pretending I wasn't unraveling. The world felt muffled like I was underwater, but I heard him clearly. My father always spoke clearly when he didn't think I was listening. I tried to move my fingers. I couldn't. I tried to lift my head. I couldn't. But I could feel the shame burning through my skin as he walked out of the room without looking back. Nobody asked me if I had somewhere to go. Nobody asked me if I was okay. The nurses just exchanged glances, the kind that say they've seen this before and they hate it every time. I wish I could tell you I sat up, demanded answers, or fought back. I didn't. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, realizing in real time that I was being abandoned by the people I fed, clothed, and carried for almost a decade. And that was the moment I learned a truth that still tastes metallic in my mouth. A family will love a breadwinner until the bread runs out. My name is Solara Merin, and I was 15 years old when I accidentally became the breadwinner of my family. Not because I was strong, not because I was ambitious, but because someone had to keep the lights on, and everyone older than me decided it didn't have to be them. I still remember my first real shift at the small grocery store near our apartment. I was so tired I kept blinking to stay awake. My hands smelled like cardboard, plastic wrap, and cleaning spray. By the time I got home, my father and stepmother were arguing over bills, and my siblings were pretending not to hear. I placed the envelope with my first paycheck on the table. Nobody said thank you. They just stopped arguing. That was the day my usefulness became my identity. At 14, I was a child. At 15, I became their solution. At 23, I became disposable. I cooked, I paid rent. I bought school supplies for siblings who complained about the colors I picked. I fixed what broke. I negotiated with landlords. I stretched every dollar into three. I wasn't living, I was maintaining everyone else's life. My father would tell people, "Solara's responsible, she's the strong one." But behind closed doors, he'd hand me overdue bills with the casualness of passing the salt. I didn't question it. When love is measured by how much you can carry, you learn to lift until your bones hurt. But here's the part I didn't understand back then. I wasn't just helping them survive, I was funding a life they were building behind my back. I didn't wake up one day and decide to become the backbone of my family. It happened the way most tragedies do, slowly, quietly, disguised as responsibility. By the time I turned 16, my father was working on and off, which really meant off more than on. My stepmother, Vessa, always had a new excuse for why she couldn't keep a job: her back, her migraines, her energy imbalance. My stepbrother Silas was allergic to effort. My younger sister Nera followed whatever example was loudest. And I was the only consistent thing in a house that never stayed stable. I'd wake at 4:50 a.m., brush my teeth in a mirror fogged with everyone's neglect, and walk to the bus stop before the sun even considered rising. By 5:30 I was stocking yogurt cups and sweeping aisles, praying my shoes would hold up until payday. After school, I'd help my father with deliveries for the tiny distribution hustle he insisted we were building together. We weren't building anything together, I was building it, he was directing traffic. When that ended, I'd go to my second shift cleaning offices, vacuuming hallways. Wiping desks are still warm from people who went home to families that didn't use them. I got home around midnight most nights, and no matter how exhausted I was, dinner still needed to be made, clothes needed to be washed, homework needed to be squeezed in before dawn. I wasn't living, I was functioning, and the funny thing, everyone in the house acted like this was normal. When the fridge was full, nobody asked how. When the rent was paid, nobody wondered who paid it. When Nera needed shoes, they magically appeared. When Silas wanted something, he didn't ask, he told. My father would slap my shoulder and say, "This is what families do, we support each other." But somehow family always meant me supporting them. I didn't complain, I didn't resist, I didn't even realize I had the right to. Because when you grow up in survival mode, you mistake exhaustion for purpose and exploitation for duty. What I didn't know then, what nobody bothered to tell me, was that real families don't collapse the moment you stop holding them together. Mine did. And the day my body broke under the weight of everything they placed on me, that was the day I finally saw what I had been too tired, too loyal and too hopeful to notice. They were never leaning on me. They were standing on me. I used to tell myself I was imagining things, the missing receipts, the bank envelopes addressed to me that my father opened first, the sudden emergencies that always required my paycheck. The one I remember most was the night the electricity was shut off. I came home from work, bone-tired, smelling like cleaning solvent, to find the kitchen in darkness and my siblings using candles like a seance. My father shrugged, saying, "The bill went up. We'll reapply for assistance. They said you're the primary now." Primary me at 17. I didn't understand how or why, but he handed me a form with my name typed on it, clearly not by me. I asked, "Why am I listed as the applicant?" He smiled too quickly. "Because you're reliable, they approve faster when the responsible one is listed." That should have been the moment I realized something was wrong. But when you grow up gaslit, red flags look like decorations, so I signed, and the lights came back on, and I kept saving a household that quietly made its foundation. I didn't know that the foundation was already cracking, or that someone else was doing the cracking behind my back. My father had a talent for saying things that felt flattering but tasted like chains. "Solara's the backbone of this family. She's the only one I can trust. She's smarter than all of us combined." People would say, "You must be proud," and I would nod, pretending it didn't hurt. But praise with expectations is just manipulation in a nicer outfit. Every compliment meant another bill. Every "you're so responsible" meant another job. Every "we couldn't do it without you" meant I had no right to rest. I didn't know the word parentification then. I just thought this was what being a good daughter meant. I didn't know I wasn't being raised, I was being harvested. My father's big dream was a small distribution business, moving packages for local vendors, handling drop-offs, managing small inventory. I believed in it. I believed in him. I did the driving, the sorting, the customer calls, the accounting, the late-night deliveries. He did the talking and bragging. He always said, "We're building something together. This will be your inheritance." Inheritance. That word felt like a promise, but every promise he made was written on sand. It was a tax letter, small, white, unimportant looking. My father snatched it out of my hand before I could open it. "Just paperwork," he said, but I had already seen my name on it, not handwritten, typed. Official, something he filled out, not me. Later, while cleaning his desk, I found a photocopy of that same form with my signature forged at the bottom. My handwriting, but not my hand. I felt the first crack in the world I had been balancing for years. I shoved the paper into a drawer and pretended it didn't exist. Denial is a soft pillow, but it smothers slowly. The week before my collapse, I worked 39 hours in 3 days. The morning it happened, I hadn't slept for more than 2 hours. My vision blurred, my throat tightened, my legs trembled. I was carrying 3 boxes when the world tilted sideways. I hit the floor so hard my teeth clattered. My manager called an ambulance. My father didn't show up at the hospital. When he finally did, he acted annoyed. "She's always been dramatic, just discharge her." His words didn't hurt. They hollowed me out. I didn't crumble. I didn't scream. I just lay there and realized that everything I had done for them had never been love. It was useful, and I had finally become unusable. I returned to our apartment the next morning. The key felt unfamiliar in my hand. When I pushed open the door, I froze. Everything was gone. The couch, the beds, the kitchen table, the microwave I bought, the pictures on the wall. The space looked like a crime scene after the cleanup crew leaves. On the counter sat only one thing, my old laptop, the same one they'd always called trash, the one they never touched. They took everything valuable except the device that held their secrets, a gift they didn't mean to give. I wish I could tell you I rose immediately. I didn't. For weeks I slept on the floor wrapped in a blanket that smelled like nothing. I cried until my ribs hurt. I didn't eat. I didn't shower. I replayed everything. What did I do wrong? Why wasn't I worth keeping? Every memory stabbed me twice, once for what happened and once for what I never questioned. I was not healing, I was dissolving. Lyra showed up without warning. She didn't judge me, didn't lecture me, didn't ask why the apartment was empty. She sat on the floor beside me, passed me water and said quietly, "So Lara, if they used you for this long, imagine what you can do now that you're free of them." It wasn't revenge she gave me, it was permission. Permission to want a life that wasn't built on my suffering. That sentence became the first brick in my comeback. One night, unable to sleep, I opened my old laptop. It was slow, humming like a tired old man, but it still worked. I browsed through old documents. Then I found it. A deleted email backup. A registration certificate for the distribution business. Owner Malric Merrin, not Solara, not shared, not inherited. Sole owner. Everything I built was legally his. I felt nothing, not anger, not sadness, just clarity. I began digging. Bank statements, redirected deposits, loans taken in my name, benefits claimed using my social security number, contracts with my forged signature. Every page was a betrayal printed in black ink. I hadn't been a daughter, I had been a revenue stream, and they abandoned me the moment the stream ran dry. I brought everything to an attorney. She read in silence. Her face didn't change. Finally she said, "Solara, this isn't neglect, this is organized exploitation." I asked, "What do I do?" She answered with 4 words, "You take back everything." For weeks I gathered everything: transaction timelines, client testimony, bank inconsistencies, forged documents, ownership proof, tax reports, logs of my labor. Every page became a weapon. Every signature is a confession. I wasn't planning revenge. I was preparing a restoration. My father wasn't alone. My stepmother Vessa feigned helplessness to keep me working. My stepbrother Silas treated me like a live-in servant. Nira followed the money, not the truth. I didn't hate them, I pitied them. They didn't even know who they were without me. I discovered they were trying to sell the business, using a forged signature of mine. They abandoned me, but they still needed my name. That was the last line they crossed, because now I was ready. My father filed for bankruptcy, hoping to erase the trail. He thought it would protect him, but bankruptcy filings are public, and they revealed everything he was hiding, including accounts he never declared. He played checkers, I brought chess. Hidden at the bottom of a document list, a bank account with my name, my SSN, and thousands of dollars in deposits I never saw. He had been laundering business income through my identity. The account was my smoking gun. A former client emailed me, "Why did you quit? Your dad said you abandoned the business." I told him the truth. He was horrified. He sent me voice recordings, screenshots, and dated invoices proving I had been the face of the company. He became my silent ally. My lawyer filed asset freezes, ownership reversal claims, fraud reports, identity theft filings, contract disputes. Within 2 days, the business was legally mine. My father lost access to everything overnight. He was served the papers in front of the investor he was trying to impress. His face drained. My stepmother panicked. My stepbrother cursed so loudly someone recorded it. The video went viral. Instant karma. While reviewing documents, I found something worse. My father had stolen my late mother's inheritance meant for me. I filed a separate lawsuit. It doubled his downfall, and gave me closure I didn't know I needed. 2 years passed. I own a thriving logistics company. I travel, I breathe, I sleep without fear. My father works humiliating side jobs. Vessa left him. Silas owes more than he earns. Nira learned the truth the hard way. Life rearranged itself, beautifully. I look at my life now and I don't see tragedy. I see resurrection. I survived being used, survived abandonment, survived betrayal. And I built something they never expected, a life that doesn't need them, a life that answers to me alone. To anyone listening who has been discarded, underestimated, or used, you are not broken. You are becoming. The first month after reclaiming the business was surreal. I'd walk into the warehouse, the same one I'd cleaned, organized, and restocked for years, and clients would do double takes. Some didn't recognize me at first. Others asked where my father was. I'd smile and say simply, "He's no longer with the company." The truth spread faster than I expected. Small business communities talk. People who had worked with us for years started reaching out. They congratulated me. Some apologized for not noticing what was happening. A few admitted they always thought I was the real backbone. One older vendor named Mr. Castellano pulled me aside during a delivery. "I always wondered why your father took credit for your roots, your organization, your client calls. Now I know." He shook my hand firmly. "You deserved this from the start." I didn't cry then, but I saved his words like a receipt, proof that I wasn't crazy, proof that people saw even when they stayed silent. Rebuilding wasn't just about reclaiming what was stolen. It was about creating something new. I rebranded, changed suppliers, restructured contracts, Hired people who respected effort, not manipulation. Slowly, the business became mine in spirit, not just on paper. But the hardest part wasn't the logistics. It was the silence. My father never called, never apologized. Vesa sent one text, "You're being selfish." I blocked her. Silas tried to guilt me through a mutual cousin. Nira posted vague things online about family betrayal. I ignored all of it. Lyra told me once, "Silence from toxic people is a gift, don't return it." So I didn't. I let them sit in the consequences they built for themselves. What surprised me most was how many people came out of the woodwork to support me. Neighbors I barely spoke to, teachers from high school who remembered me working multiple jobs, even a former manager from the grocery store sent me flowers with a note. "I always knew you'd do something big." It was strange, all those years I thought I was invisible. Turns out people saw me, they just didn't know how to help. The lawsuit against my father for stealing my mother's inheritance took 8 months to resolve. My mother passed away when I was 12. She left me a small life insurance payout and some savings, enough to help with college or a fresh start. I never saw a cent of it. My father had forged documents claiming he was the sole beneficiary as my guardian. He drained the account within 2 years. When confronted in court, he claimed he used it for the family. His lawyer tried to argue it was spent on my upbringing. My lawyer presented receipts. I had paid rent since I was 16. I had bought my own clothes. I had funded my own everything. The judge wasn't impressed. My father was ordered to repay the full amount with interest. He couldn't, so the court placed a lien on any future income he earned. He'd be paying me back in pieces for the rest of his life. I didn't feel victorious. I felt tired, but it was the kind of tiredness that comes after a long fight you finally won. Around that time, I started seeing a therapist. Her name was Dr. Renee, and she didn't sugarcoat anything. In our 3rd session, she said, "So Lara, you were a victim of financial and emotional abuse. You know that, right?" I did, but hearing it out loud made it real in a way I hadn't allowed before. I cried for an hour in her office. Not sad tears, releasing tears, like a pressure valve finally opened. She helped me understand that healing wasn't about forgiving them. It was about forgiving myself, for not seeing it sooner, for believing I owed them my entire life, for thinking love was supposed to hurt that much. I started journaling, writing letters I'd never send, listing things I wanted for my future that had nothing to do with anyone else. It felt selfish at first, then it felt necessary, then it felt like breathing. One afternoon I got a message from Nira. It was long, apologetic. She said she didn't realize how bad things were. She said Vesa had painted me as the villain. She said she missed me. She asked if we could talk. I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to respond. Part of me wanted to believe she was genuine, but Dr. Renee's words echoed in my head. "You don't owe anyone access to you, even if they're sorry." I didn't block Nira, but I didn't respond either. Maybe someday, not today. The business grew faster than I expected. Within 18 months, I had doubled our client base. I hired 3 employees, people I vetted carefully, people who showed up on time, people who didn't treat work like a favor. One of them, a young guy named Terence, reminded me of myself at 15. Quiet, hardworking, too responsible for his age. I made sure he got paid fairly. I made sure he took breaks. I made sure he knew his worth wasn't tied to how much he could carry. He asked me once, "Why are you so nice to us?" I smiled. "Because someone should have been nice to me." I started speaking at small community events, workshops for young people dealing with financial abuse, panels on entrepreneurship, talks about recognizing exploitation disguised as family duty. I didn't do it for fame. I did it because I wished someone had warned me. After one talk, a girl no older than 17 approached me. She was shaking. "That's my life right now," she whispered. "I'm the only one working, they take everything." I gave her my number. I connected her with resources. I told her what I wish someone had told me. "You're allowed to save yourself." 3 months later, she texted me. She'd moved out, found a roommate. I started night classes. She sent a photo of her first paycheck that she got to keep. I cried. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction. It's building something so solid that the people who underestimated you can't even touch it. My father tried one last time to contact me. It was a handwritten letter slipped under my apartment door. I recognized his handwriting immediately. I almost threw it away, but curiosity got the better of me. The letter was 3 pages long. It was half apology, half justification. He claimed he did what he had to do. He said he was trying to teach me responsibility. He said he never meant to hurt me. He ended with, "I hope one day you'll understand." I read it twice, then I put it through the shredder. I didn't need to understand him, I needed to understand myself, and I finally did. A year later I moved into a new apartment. It was small but mine, truly mine. I picked out every piece of furniture. I painted the walls a soft grey-blue. I bought plants and kept them alive. I cooked meals just for me. I fell asleep without dread. One evening, Lyra came over with takeout. We sat on my tiny balcony watching the city lights flicker on. She raised her soda can. To Solara, the girl who survived, the woman who rebuilt it. I clinked my can against hers. To start over, I said. As many times as it takes. People ask me sometimes if I regret cutting off my family. The answer is no. What I regret is how long I stayed. What I regret is believing that suffering for someone meant they loved you back. I don't hate my father, I don't hate Vesa or Silas or even Nera. I just don't carry them anymore. And that's the most peaceful thing I've ever done. The business hit a major milestone last month. We secured a contract with a regional shipping company. It's the kind of deal my father used to dream about but never had the discipline to reach. I signed the papers in a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows. I looked out at the city and thought, I made it. Not in spite of what happened, because of it. Pain has a way of teaching you things comfort never could. I'm 26 now, 3 years removed from the day I woke up on a hospital floor and realized I'd been abandoned. 3 years since I found the laptop. 3 years since I stopped asking why I wasn't enough and started asking why I ever thought I wasn't. I still have hard days, days when I wonder if I'm doing enough, days when I feel the weight of old programming telling me I owe someone something, but those days are fewer now, and I've learned to talk back to them. I'm building a life that doesn't require me to shrink, a life where rest isn't guilt, a life where my worth isn't measured by what I produce, a life where I get to be whole without apologizing for the space I take up. I've started mentoring young women in business. I teach them how to spot exploitation, how to set boundaries, how to walk away from people who only love what you can do for them, not who you are. One mentee told me recently, "You saved my life." I corrected her gently. "No, you saved your own life, I just showed you it was possible." That's the truth I wish I'd known earlier. No one can save you, but someone can show you that saving yourself is allowed. I don't know where my father is now. I don't keep tabs. I heard through a distant cousin that he's still struggling. That Vesa left him for someone with money. That Silas is working irregular jobs and complaining about it. I feel nothing when I hear these updates. Not satisfied, no pity, just nothing. They're characters in a story I'm no longer writing. I've started dating again. Slowly, carefully, I'm learning what it feels like to be wanted, not needed, to be chosen, not used. It's strange and wonderful and terrifying all at once. The man I'm seeing now, his name is Kieran. He's patient. He doesn't ask me to carry his problems. He doesn't expect me to fix him. He just shows up, consistently, kindly. And when I told him my story, he didn't try to minimize it or rush me past it. He just said, "Thank you for trusting me." That's how I know he's different. I'm writing this not because I need people to feel sorry for me. I'm writing this because I know there are people out there living the life I escaped. People who think love is supposed to cost everything. People who think family means sacrifice until there's nothing left. I'm writing this to tell you it doesn't. You're allowed to walk away. You're allowed to choose yourself. You're allowed to build a life where you're not the foundation everyone else stands on. Some people will call you selfish. Let them. Selfish is just a word people use when you stop letting them use you. I look at photos of myself from 3 years ago. I see exhaustion in my eyes. I see someone holding on by a thread. I see a girl who thought she had to earn the right to exist. I look at myself now in the mirror. I see strength. I see peace. I see someone who survived the unthinkable and decided to bloom anyway. If you're reading this and you're in the thick of it, if you're the one working 3 jobs while everyone else relaxes, if you're the one whose name is on everything but whose voice is heard by no one, if you're the one who's tired of being tired, please hear me. You are not a tool, you are not a resource, you are not a backup plan, you are a whole person who deserves a life that doesn't break you. And if the people around you can't see that, it's not your job to teach them, it's your job to leave. I won't lie and say it's easy. It's the hardest thing I've ever done, but it's also the most important, because the life I have now, the peace, the freedom, the joy was always mine to claim. I just had to believe I was worth it. 3 years ago, I was abandoned on a hospital floor. Today, I'm standing in my own office with my name on the door. 3 years ago, I thought I'd lost everything. Today, I know I found myself. That's not a fairy tale. That's just what happens when you stop waiting for someone to save you and realize you've been your own hero all along. Dr. Renee told me something in one of our last sessions. She said, "Solara, you didn't just survive, you alchemized, you turned pain into power. That's rare." I don't know if it's rare, I just know it's real, and if I can do it, so can you. So here's my message to everyone who's ever been used, discarded, or underestimated: rise quietly, build privately, and let the world learn your strength from the results, not your explanations. You don't owe anyone your story, you don't owe anyone forgiveness, you don't owe anyone a second chance. You owe yourself peace, you owe yourself safety, you owe yourself a life where you're not the only one giving. And when you finally claim it, don't look back, don't justify, don't explain, just live. Because the best revenge isn't letting them see you win, it's not necessary for them to see you at all. I'm living proof that you can start over, that you can walk away from people who share your blood and still build a family from people who share your values, that you can lose everything and still build something better. I didn't write this for sympathy, I wrote it for the person who needs permission, permission to leave, permission to protect yourself, permission to want more than survival. You have my permission, but more importantly, give yourself permission. 3 years ago, my father told a doctor I wasn't his responsibility anymore. He was right, I wasn't, I was my own, I just didn't know it yet. Now I do, and nothing anyone says or does will ever make me forget it again. If you're still carrying people who wouldn't carry you, this is your sign. Put them down, not out of anger, not out of bitterness, but out of love, love for yourself, love for the future you're going to build, love for the person you're becoming. I used to think being strong meant holding everything together. Now I know being strong means knowing when to let go. I used to think family meant forever. Now I know family means safe. I used to think love meant sacrifice. Now I know love means reciprocity. And the day I learned those lessons was the day I started truly living. So to everyone out there who feels like they're drowning while everyone else floats, to everyone who's tired of being the backbone, to everyone who's been abandoned after giving everything, you're not alone. Your story isn't over, it's just beginning, and I promise you the next chapter is going to be so much better than the last. Because this time you're writing it, not them, you. And that makes all the difference. I look at my life now and I don't see tragedy, I see resurrection. I survived being used, survived abandonment, survived betrayal, and I built something they never expected, a life that doesn't need them, a life that answers to me alone. To anyone listening who has been discarded, underestimated, or used, you are not broken, you are becoming. Rise quietly, build privately, and let the world learn your strength from the results, not your explanations. You are allowed to start over, you are allowed to protect yourself, you are allowed to rise without apologizing. What broke you was real, but so is what you can become.